9173. Dariusz Kowalczyk is Chief Investment Strategist, SJS Markets. He joins us now live from Hong Kong. Staying with us at our Asia headquarters, Michael Yoshikami, our guest host, YCM Net Advisors. Dariusz, always good to see you. Happy holidays. What are you thinking as we head into 2010?
I believe that 2010 is going to be divided into two broad phases. Initially, markets will be optimistic about growth outlook because indeed it seems that the global economy will expand by over 4% next year, and as a result risk appetite will continue. So the current trade funded in the US dollar is going to depress the greenback, and I think that sometime in the spring it will be trading even weaker than it was at this year's lows around end of November. However, beyond that time frame, investors will focus their attention on a little bit longer-term picture. What happens when fiscal stimulus packages in the US and China run out their course, and they are scheduled to pretty much do so by the end of 2010. Now, equity markets usually peak about 2 quarters before a recession starts, and investors will be concerned that private demand will not be strong enough to pick up the baton from public spending, and then there will be another slump. So this will trigger a correction in equity markets, risk appetite will wane, and the greenback will no longer be sold in the current trade. It will be bought back. It will start to recover and will regain most of the ground lost in the first quarter by the end of the year.
Okay, having said all that, you're a strategist. How are you telling your clients to position themselves then?
I believe that the best bets right now for the next 3 to 6 months is to invest in commodity currencies. I think that the likes of the Aussie or the Kiwi are going to see very strong gains because the recent correction was just that, just a correction as people were taking profits on the 2009 big trends. So I would be a buyer of the Aussie. I think we will see parity in the spring of 2010. I would also buy the Kiwi, and the Brazilian real is likely to appreciate by almost as much, around 10% between now and the spring of 2010.
Dariusz, do you think that as folks look at the U.S. dollar and they compare it against the euro, do you think that actually that comparison and that tie is really getting more and more relevant, and that we really should stop talking about U.S. dollar to euro and more start looking at U.S. dollar to other Asian currencies?
I think that from the perspective of the global big picture, the euro-dollar pair continues to be the most relevant just because of the sizes of those two economies. Each of them accounts for just over 20% of global GDP, a lot of global trend. No other country can match that. In Asia, the only heavyweight, aside from the yen, would be the renminbi. And obviously there will be a lot of talk about it as the Chinese trade surplus recovers. But as long as policymakers in China do not allow renminbi to be fully internationalized and do not allow it to be more freely floating, then it will just remain that, a big talking point and a friction in geopolitical negotiations.
Dariusz, got to ask, I mean, you talked about potential in commodity currencies, AUD, also to a slightly lesser extent the Kiwi dollar. Because we've had such a strong dollar rally this month, December, versus currencies like AUD, is this a good point to get in?
Absolutely. I would say that what happened in December this year is very similar to the events of December last year, when the dollar actually lost the ground as those who were long that currency in previous months were taking profits. The same thing happened this year. People who were short the dollar took profits, and it's a wonderful entry opportunity if you want to invest in the Aussie and the Kiwi, because interest rates in those two countries will, in case of Australia, will continue to rise. In case of New Zealand, will begin to rise in 2010, while the Fed is bound to stay put through at least the second half of 2011. So interest rate differentials here will definitely favor the commodity currencies, and so will commodity prices, which will improve their external balances.
Dariusz, I want to just switch gears and take this conversation just further afield and talk about the poor old British pound, which is a currency very close to my own heart. What's in store there for next year? Because it has been the whipping boy in the currency markets of late. You've got these mounting debt concerns. It's been placed on credit watch. Is the pound going to continue to be vulnerable in 2010?
I think that in the first part of the year, the pound is likely to see pretty solid gains against the greenback, given that as the financial system stability improves, the big banking sector that is so important for the British economy and the currency is going to look better and better, and this will be definitely a positive for the cable. But at the same time, upside will be limited by the fact that its economy is not as sound as, say, the US or the Eurozone. The manufacturing sector in particular is just not strong enough to pick up on the global recovery. And this is going to limit gains. So I expect that euro-pound is bound to drift higher towards 0.95.
Do you think that the U.S. dollar is going to be replaced as the trading currency? There's much talk about this. Some people say that it's inevitable. Some people say it happens over a 30-year period. We have to wait till 2020, 2030. Do you think that's going to happen, and if so, when?
Well, both groups are right. It is inevitable because the relative size of the U.S. economy compared to other major partners around the world is steadily declining. For example, over this current decade that's ending, it fell from about 30% to about 20%. But at the same time, it will be a prolonged process because the candidates to replace it are not up to the task. Euro, well, the political unity of the bloc is not strong enough, and China is not in a hurry. So I think we are going to wait for another 10 to 20 years. But the process has started. You know, there's more and more trading in the renminbi, for example, although on a small scale. So it will be a gradual but sure process that will lead to a more multipolar world by the time you mentioned about 2030.
Long ways away, but I guess we're going to get there. Dariusz, good to talk to you, sir. Got to go. Thank you for the time.
My pleasure.
Dariusz Kowalczyk, Chief Investment Strategist, SJS Markets up in Hong Kong, and Michael Leo.